All right, good morning, everybody. Take a deep breath, relax, and get ready to focus like you've never focused before. It's a big one. Get ready for Math Lesson 26, the division algorithm. And if you don't already have a clean, lined sheet of paper on your desk, please hit pause right now because later on, I'm going to be asking you to work out a few problems with me together. So make sure you have that ready to go. So a little bit of review right now from lesson 22 because I still see some people making mistakes. Probably the number one mistake I see is they're trying to do it all in their head. So we had said back on lesson 22 that there's 3 steps. Your first step would be to divide. Divide into the first 2 digits of the dividend inside the box. A little bit more review. This problem is pronounced 11 divided by 3. You always say the dividend first, not 3 divided by 11. So we're going to go and try to figure out where we're going to divide. Can you divide 3 into 1? If you have 3 people coming over and only 1 chair, are they all going to fit? I don't think I'm going to divide it into 1. I'm going to divide it all the way into 11. Now, if some people are still fuzzy about their multiplication facts, remember, use your multiplication chart. You're looking in the 3 row, dividing by 3. For the closest number to 11 without going over. Go straight up to find the quotient. Now, some people might be saying, but Mr. Hines, 12 is a lot closer to 11, but 12 is bigger than 11, right? You have to think it will fit in there 3 times because 9 is the closest multiple without going over. So your quotient would be 3. So let's go ahead right now and we'll know that it divides in there 3 times. My second step is multiply back the quotient digit you just wrote times the divisor, otherwise known as the number outside the box. I just wrote a 3. I'm going to multiply them by the 3 outside the box, aka the divisor, and I'm going to write my product right down below. So what is 3 times 3? Hopefully everybody in the room knows 3 times 3. Hey, that was that multiple we saw in the 3 row. That is 9, right? Go ahead and write it down right below the box, getting ready for step 3. Step 3 says subtract. The dividend digits inside the box, which was 11, minus the numbers below them, which was 9. You have to go and subtract these 2 numbers. 11 minus 9. That's 2. And it says go and write the difference, the answer when you subtract, below the numbers you subtracted. So what do I do with that 2 left over? That's my remainder, right? This should all be review from lesson 22. So let's go ahead and try just a couple more problems here and you'll see why in just a moment. If I was going to go 14 divided by 2, well, that's a piece of cake. I'm going to divide 2 into 14 7 whole times. The tricky part now, you want to make sure to get your quotient lined up nice, neat, and straight at the end of the number you're dividing into. And you'll see why in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and multiply it back. 7 times 2 is 14, right? And step number 3 says to go and subtract. 14 minus 14 is 0. So I don't have to go and write remainder 0. I can just leave nothing because nothing is the same as 0, right? Let's go and try it over here. 9 divided by 2. Well, that should be pretty easy. 2 divides into 9 4 whole times. I'm going to go and multiply that one back for 8. And I'm going to go ahead and subtract, and I'll end up with 1. So now I'm going to write my remainder 1, right? So why am I showing you something like this? There is not a 5th grader in the room who couldn't do these two problems, right? So what if we had to divide 149 by 2? Don't go and panic, right? You said you can divide 14 by 2, and you said you could divide 9 by 2, so we should not have any issues with 149 divided by 2, and let me show you how it's going to work. So, on everybody's desk is a copy of the division steps, probably the toughest part of the division algorithm, other than being extremely neat, is keeping track of what step you are on. And we're going to talk through it step by step right now, starting with step 1, divide, right? Divide into the first two digits of the dividend inside the box. Is 2 going to fit into 1? We're going to have to divide it into 14, right? So that means my first quotient digit is going to end up nice and neat right on top of that 4. If you get sloppy and put it in no man's land, it's going to cause you all kinds of problems. So 14 divided by 2. Well, 14 divided by 2, we said earlier, was 7. That's not so tough, right? Get ready for step 2. Step 2 says multiply back the quotient you just wrote. I just wrote that 7 times the divisor, the number outside the box, right? That hasn't changed. You got to ask yourself, what is 7 times 2? Hopefully you know 7 times 2, hey, that's still 14. Hasn't changed one bit, right? Moving on to step 3, subtract the dividend digits minus the numbers below them. 14 minus 14, hey, that would give us 0, right? Those were the first 3 steps we learned from lesson 22. There's only 1.5 more steps to worry about right now. Step 4 is saying bring down the next number in the dividend. Write it next to your difference. Write it next to your subtraction answer. Well, the next number to bring down would be this 9. And it says to go ahead and write it next to your difference. I'm going to go ahead and bring that 9 straight down, and I'm going to go and write it next to the difference. So step 5 says repeat if necessary. Go back to step 1. Divide is step 1, but this is the second time through. And on the second time through, divide into the new dividend at the bottom. All this stuff we've done so far, you don't even have to worry about. All you are concerning yourself with is 9 divided by 2. Just think of it as 9 divided by 2. You just brought down your extra number and you're ready to divide again. So, how many times does 2 divide into 9? 2 times what is going to get you close to 9? We said it before, that would be 4, right? Get ready for step 2 again. Multiply back. The quotient digit you just wrote, we're not worried about the 7. We just wrote down a 4. If I write it down, I am going to multiply it back. 4 times 2. Well, what is 4 times 2? Hopefully you know 4 times 2 is 8. Get ready for step 3. Subtract. The dividend digits inside the box minus the numbers below them. 9 minus 8. Well, 9 minus 8 is 1, right? So the 3 division rules, divide, multiply back, and subtract, you always have to do. If you divide and write a quotient on top of the box, you must multiply it back and you must subtract. But let's take a look at step 4. Bring down the next number. Hey, is there a next number to bring down? No, I have a quotient of 4 on top of my 9. I'm all out of numbers to bring down. So what do I do with the 1 sitting at the bottom? Remainder 1. And let's check out this for a second. So just a reminder, we said everybody can do these 2 problems, right? 14 divided by 2 was 7. 9 divided by 2 was 4, remainder 1. It is just 2 separate division problems in the division algorithm. 74, remainder 1. 14 divided by 2 was 7. 9 divided by 2 was 4, remainder 1. You're just putting 2 separate dividing problems together. So there's one other thing I want to show you here before we take out the paper and pencil and start working it with me. How to check. Your first step, because multiplication and division are inverse operations. If I'm checking a division problem, the first thing I want to do is multiply. Multiply the quotient times the divisor. The number you wrote for the answer times the number you're dividing by. Second step, add any remainder to that answer. 74 times 2 was 148. And then go and add the remainder. Well, 148 plus 1 more is 149. So if you want to know if you did it right, when you multiply the quotient times the divisor and get an answer, and add on any remainder, that number should equal the dividend, the number inside the box. All right, here it comes now. Don't panic, but I'm going to want you to take out your paper, work out each problem with me on a lined piece of paper, and I will tell you this right now. You want to write as neat as humanly possible. 99.9% of division mistakes is because people are writing too messy. So let's go ahead and write this down on our paper. 375 divided by 9. Hit pause right now if you need a couple of seconds to write it down. All right, step 1, divide into the first 2 digits of the dividend inside the box. We have 9 people coming over. If I have 3 chairs, is there enough room for them? I don't think so. We're going to have to start dividing into 37, which means our first quotient digit is going to go right on top of the 7. 9 times what is close to 37 without going over? Hopefully you know that answer would be 4. So you should have a 4, nice, neat, and straight, right up above the 7. Step number 2, multiply back. The quotient digit you just wrote, I just wrote that 4, times the divisor, the number outside the box. 4 times 9. So what is 4 times 9? Hopefully everybody knows that should be 36, right? And just like it says on our sheet, write the number at the bottom. Everybody have it? Hit pause if you don't. We're getting ready to move on to step 3. Step 3 says subtract the dividend digits inside the box minus the numbers below them. 37 minus 36. Well, what is 37 minus 36? Hopefully you all know that's 1. Let's write 1 right below our 36 because that is the difference when we subtracted. I'll give you a couple minutes, but if not, hit pause because we're getting ready for step 4. Step 4, bring down the next number in the dividend. The next number I have left that I haven't divided is that 5. I'm going to bring it straight down into the answer and write it next to our difference. So let's take a look at step 5. Step 5 just says, repeat if necessary. Go back to step 1 and it says divide. But we're past the second time through, right? So we have to divide into the new dividend at the bottom. Don't even worry about all this stuff up here. The only thing you need to concern yourself with is 15 divided by 9. So what is 15 divided by 9? 9 times what is going to get me close to 15 without going over? Hopefully you know that answer would be 1. And I'm going to write it nice, neat, and straight right above the 5. You have to remember, if you divide, you must multiply back and you must subtract, correct? So let's get ready for step 2. Multiply back the quotient digit you just wrote times the divisor. Don't worry about the 4. We're only worried about the quotient digit we just wrote, that 1. We're going to go 1 times 9. And what is 1 times 9? I don't think there's a 5th grader in the room here who doesn't know that 1 times 9 would be 9, right? Are you keeping caught up on your paper? If not, hit pause. Don't worry about it, but be writing these down with me, and let's get ready for step 3. Step 3 is saying subtract the dividend digits inside the box, 15, minus the numbers below them, that 9 when we multiplied back. What would be 15 minus 9? Hey, that is 6. Remember, if you divide, you must multiply back and you must subtract. But let's check out step 4. Bring down the next number in the dividend. Do I have another number to bring down? No, I don't. Will 6 divide by 9? No, it will not. So what do I do with that 6 left over on the bottom? That is your remainder. 41, remainder 6. All right, we got a quotient of 41 with a remainder of 6. But what if they asked us to check it? Remember, because division and multiplication are inverse operations, if I want to check a divide problem, I start off by multiplying. Multiply the quotient times the divisor. 41 was my quotient. My divisor was 9, so I'm going to go 9 times 1. Hey, that's 9. 9 times 4. Hey, that was 36, right? So I have 369, but then I have to add any remainder to the answer. So I have 369, and I have to add on my remainder of 6. So 9 plus 6 is 5. Write down my 5. I'm going to carry my 1. 1 plus 6 is 7. And 3 plus nothing is 3. I have an answer of 375, which is exactly what the dividend in the initial dividing problem was, right? So if you multiply the quotient times the divisor, add on any remainder, that should equal what the dividend is that you started with. All right, hopefully that wasn't too bad for you. Let's go ahead and start our second problem. On your paper, I want you to write down $8.85 divided by 3. Write it nice and neat. 99.9% of dividing problems come from people being too sloppy. So before we start dividing, I'm going to let you know that in our math book, anytime you're dividing a money problem, you will never, ever, ever have a remainder. So if you are dividing a money problem and you end up with a remainder, that should be a pretty good indicator right there that you did something wrong. So let's go ahead and start with step 1. Divide into the first 2 digits of the dividend inside the box. My divisor is 3. I have 3 people coming over. Where to fit? Will 3 people coming over fit onto 8 chairs? Yeah, they will. So I'm going to go and start just dividing into the first box right now. What you divide into has to be larger than the divisor. So 3 times what is going to get me close to 8? Hopefully everybody knows that would be 2. So I'm going to write down that 2 nice, neat, and straight exactly above the 8. All right, step number 2 says multiply back the quotient digit you just wrote. I just wrote the 2 times the divisor, aka the number outside the box. 2 times 3, and I want to write that product, that answer, right below my 8. So 2 times 3, hey, that's going to be 6. And I'll write it nice, neat, and straight right there. If you need a couple extra seconds, that would be fine. Otherwise, hit pause because I want you writing these out along with me. Okay, let's get ready for step 3. Subtract the dividend digits inside the box minus the numbers that you wrote when you multiplied back. 8 minus 6, I think everybody in the room knows that would be 2, right? So you write the difference, the answer when you subtract, below the numbers you subtracted. Getting ready for step 4. Bring down the next number in the dividend. The next number I have in the dividend is this 8. I'm going to bring it straight down and write it next to your difference. Write it next to the answer when you subtracted. So I'm going to go ahead and write that 8 right next to my subtraction answer of 2. Are y'all caught up? If not, hit pause. So really, step 5 isn't even much of a step, right? It just says repeat if necessary. I'm going to go back up to step 1, which is divide, but it's my second time through, which means I'm going to divide into the new dividend at the bottom. You really don't need to concern yourself about any of this. You're only worried about 28 divided by 3. This is your new dividend that you're dividing into. 28 divided by 3. So, what is 28 divided by 3? 3 times what is going to get me close to 28? Hopefully everybody knows that would be a 9. So when I write that quotient digit of 9, I want to write it nice and neat on top of this 8 that we brought down. Get ready for step 2. Multiply back. The quotient you just wrote. I'm not worried about the 2. I'm only worried about the quotient I just wrote. I just wrote down that 9, right? So I'm going to multiply that 9 back. 9 times 3 is going to give us what? Hopefully everybody knows 9 times 3, hey, that's 27. And I'm going to write that at the bottom. If you're not caught up right now, go ahead and hit pause because we're getting ready for step 3. If you are all caught up, remember step 3 says subtract. The dividend digits inside the box, which was 28, minus the numbers below them. So 28 minus 27. What is 28 minus 27? That would give us 1. Write that number below. All right, ready for step 4, and here's where this problem is a little bit different. I do have another number to bring down. I can tell because this 5 doesn't have a quotient digit written on top of it yet. This is why in the division algorithm, it's so important to write nice, neat, and straight. I'm going to take that 5 and I'm going to bring it straight down and park it right next to my 1. All right, on to step number 5, which just says repeat if necessary. Going all the way back up to step 1. I'm back to dividing, but I'm past the second time through. I'm dividing into the new dividend at the bottom. My new dividend at the bottom is 15, right? I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. All I'm looking at is 15 divided by 3. So what is 15 divided by 3? 3 times what gets me close to 15? Well, it's not even getting me close, it's getting me exact, right? 3 times 5. 5 will be the last quotient digit that you are going to write nice, neat, and straight on top of that 5. Remember, if you divide, you must multiply back, you must subtract. So I'm going back to step 2. Multiply back. The quotient digit you just wrote times the divisor. What did I just write? I just wrote that 5, so I'm going to multiply that 5 back. 5 times 3, and I'm going to park that answer right below the 15. Well, what is 5 times 3? Well, 5 times 3 is 15, correct? Write it right down below. If you haven't gotten caught up, hit pause right now. We'll wait for you. All right, getting ready for step 3, because if I divide, I must always multiply back, and I must always subtract. I'm on step 3, subtract. The dividend digits inside the box minus the numbers below them. I have 15. I'm going to subtract the numbers below them. 15 minus 15, hey, that is 0. So you must always divide, you must always multiply back, and you must always subtract. Let's take a look at step 4. Bring down the next number in the dividend. Well, I have a quotient number above that 8. I have a quotient number above that 8. And I have a quotient number above that 5. I am all done bringing down any numbers. I don't have to do step 4. The last thing I have to do is bring my decimal point straight up into the answer and add a dollar sign. Remember, if you're dividing a money problem, you will never ever have a remainder. So my final answer is $2.95. All right, but what if they were asking us how to check? Remember, division and multiplication are inverse operations. If I'm checking a dividing problem, I'm going to do the opposite sign and multiply. I'm going to start off multiplying the quotient times the divisor. My answer times the number outside the box. So 3 times 5, that's 15. I'll write down my 5 and I'm going to carry my 1. Then I'm going to go 3 times 9 is 27 plus 1 more. Hey, that's 28. So I'm going to go ahead and write down my 8 and I'm going to carry my 2. Then I'm going to go 3 times 2 is 6 plus the 2 I carried. That is 8. But there's a dollar sign and a decimal point inside the problem, so I need to make sure I put in a dollar sign and a decimal point on the answer. So, how do I know it's correct? If it's correct, the number should equal the dividend. I have $8.85. I have $8.85 here. So congratulations, we divided that correctly. All right, time for a new problem. As neat as you can, let's write down 234 divided by 5. And it's time for step 1. Divide into the first 2 digits of the dividend inside the box. I'm dividing by 5. If I have 5 people coming over, are they going to fit into 2 chairs? Nope, I can't start with 2. I'm going to have to start with 23. So my first quotient digit is going to get written nice, neat, and straight right on top of that 3. So I'm going to have to ask myself, 5 times what is going to get me close to 23? And hopefully everybody here knows that answer would be 4. Make sure you have this written down. Hit pause if you don't. Getting ready for step 2. Multiply back the quotient digit you just wrote times the divisor. I just wrote down that 4. I'm going to multiply them back by that 5. 5 times 4 is going to give me what? Hopefully everybody knows 5 times 4. Hey, that is 20. So I'm going to write 20 at the bottom of the problem. We are getting ready for step 3, subtract. The dividend digits inside the box minus the numbers below them. We are dividing into 23 to start off with, and we wrote 20 below it. So now we have to ask ourselves, what is 23 minus 20? That answer would be a 3, and I'm going to write it nice, neat, and straight right underneath there. All right, getting ready for step 4. Bring down the next number in the dividend. I can tell I have a number to bring down because he doesn't have a quotient digit above it. So I'm going to bring this 4 straight down and I'm going to write it next to the difference. That 3 was the answer when we subtracted. Step 5 really isn't even much of a step at all. It just says repeat if necessary. Go back to step 1. I know I'm dividing, and this is the second time through. So on the second time through, it says divide into the new dividend at the bottom. I have 34 at the bottom. 34 divided by 5. All this other stuff you don't even have to pay attention to. So what is 34 divided by 5? 5 times what is going to get me close to 34? Hopefully you know that answer would be 6. And because I brought my 4 down, I'm going to write that number nice, neat, and straight right on top of the 4. Step 2, multiply back the quotient digit you just wrote. I'm not worried about that 4. I'm only worried about that 6 that I just wrote. Times the divisor, the number outside the box. 6 times 5 is going to give me what? I'm hoping everybody knows 6 times 5. That's going to give us 30, right? And I'm going to write the 30 right at the bottom. If you aren't caught up, hit pause and get this on your paper. Moving on to step 3, subtract the dividend digits inside the box minus the numbers below them. I have 34 minus 30. So what is 34 minus 30? Hey, that would be 4, right? And I write it right below the numbers you subtracted. So remember, if you divide, you must multiply back and you must subtract every time. But let's take a look at step 4. Bring down the next number in the dividend. Well, I have a quotient number above 23 and I have a quotient number above the 4. Do I have any more numbers to bring down? And hopefully you know that answer would be no. But I do have 4 left down on the bottom, so I better go and write my remainder. Remainder 4. Is it getting any easier for you? Let's go and check something else out again. So here it is again, how to check. So if I am checking a dividing problem, dividing and multiplying are inverse operations. So I'm going to start off by multiplying the quotient times the divisor. 46 times 5. 5 times 6. Well, hey, that's 30. So I'm going to write down my 0. I'm going to carry my 3. Then I'm going to go 5 times 4 is 20. Plus 3 more. Hey, that's going to give us 23, isn't it? So I have 230 plus 4. 0 plus 4 is 4. 3 plus nothing is 3. And 2 plus nothing is 2. If you multiplied the quotient times the divisor, added on the remainder, the dividend should equal what your answer is. Congratulations, we divided this one correctly. All right, this is the end. Thank you for hanging in there so long with me. You are definitely going to want a clean scratch piece of paper. You are definitely going to want your multiplication chart. And you are definitely going to want to go slow and careful. If you still don't understand, hit rewind again before you start today's Socrative quiz. This is probably one of the most important skills we have in 5th grade. We have to make our peace with it, and good luck.